It is not an exaggeration to say that here in the US, we are slipping into fascist politics, and you don't have to take my word for it. Hey, I'm Asante, and here's what I've been thinking. Lest you think I'm exaggerating, I want to actually give a definition of fascism. Merriam-Webster defines fascism as a populist political philosophy, movement, or regime that exalts nation and often race above the individual, that is associated with a centralized autocratic government headed by a dictatorial leader, and that is characterized by severe economic and social regimentation and by forcible suppression of opposition. So that's the general dictionary definition, but I also want to bring in the work of a scholar that studies fascist rhetoric and where it can lead for a living. So this is an excellent read by Jason Stanley, How Fascism Works. Quick read, very readable, highly recommend. I'll just read you his overview from the introduction. And by the way, this is from 2018, so before our current election season. Fascist politics includes many distinct strategies: the mythic past, propaganda, anti-intellectualism, unreality, hierarchy, victimhood, law and order, sexual anxiety, appeals to the heartland, and a dismantling of public welfare and unity. Though a defense of certain elements is legitimate and sometimes warranted, there are times in history when they come together in one party or political movement. These are dangerous moments. In the United States today, Republican politicians employ these strategies with more and more frequency. Their increasing tendency to engage in this politics should give honest conservatives pause. And I'll make the point that I'm not mapping being liberal or conservative neatly onto this spectrum. It doesn't map neatly onto this spectrum. There is a healthy, honest version of conservatism that I do think we need in society. I'll be going more in depth into that in a future video. A healthy conservatism, I think, is one that sees the value in maintaining some larger social structures, that knows that we do need cohesion and social stability, that also sees the value in having moral foundations of a culture and having a safe environment. There's a conservatism that sees those things as just as important as individual freedom. And in fact, I think that those things, when done well, support individual freedom. A productive conservative approach would say, how can we have individual rights and freedoms while also not destroying the culture of society, while also conserving a sense of social cohesion? What we don't want is a conservatism that throws out your individual rights altogether. No rights for you. Not what we want. Undesirable. The issue with the current iteration of the Republican Party is that they are putting forward a platform that would dismantle the federal protections against private and state domination and would put in a system that allows for even more concentration of power into the hands of a few. Not to mention that the Supreme Court basically just made the president into a king by allowing immunity for any actions that are done on the job. Yeah, break the law all you want, just make sure you do it on company time. We have one of the vice presidential candidates listening to thinkers that actually support monarchy. The founders of this country, flawed though they were, knew that monarchy was not compatible with liberty and justice for all. The idea that we should be ruled by one man and not ruled by the rule of law is un-American. Again, that was the entire founding premise of this country, is that we're not doing kings no more. Sorry, boo. George Washington, our mythic hero, stepped down from office voluntarily and was like, I'm not going to be a king. I meant that, okay? We don't do kings. Period. So it's worth mapping out what we've progressed from. What is on that autocracy end of the spectrum? Here we have systems that explicitly create and enforce inequality. At the extreme end, we have complete dictatorship, power totally concentrated in the hands of one man. Let's be real. Then you have kings and monarchy, where power is concentrated within one family. Fascism would be in this zone, and I'm putting it here because there is often a dictatorial leader within fascism, but fascism is really the politics of us against them. There is a master race that is the nation, the true Germans, the true Americans. They're the master race, and they want to have power and control over the structure of society. That social order has a strict gender and racial hierarchy, where the race at the bottom is dehumanized and sometimes eliminated altogether. Then we have slavery. It's not a total control of society, but it is emphasizing the dehumanization of whatever race is enslaved. And then you have caste systems where, unlike slavery and fascism, you might not be explicitly dehumanizing the bottom rung of people, but there is a set social hierarchy where some people are explicitly on the top and some people are explicitly on the bottom. All of these systems are about creating and perpetuating inequality. They're systems where people do have total control over other people and where some people's humanity is explicitly valued more than other people's humanity. Now, the scariest thing about this present political moment in the US is that the rhetoric of the Republican Party is in this zone right now. Talking about immigrants as vermin, that is the dehumanizing language of fascism. Talking about being a dictator on day one, I mean, that's taking us to even before where the founders were, right? Like, the founders were like somewhere in here. They moved from the monarch to around here and they called themselves sort of making progress, which sure, but to take us back even further into autocracy than that is pretty wild. One of the most dangerous things happening now is the antagonizing of other Americans, fellow citizens. As Stanley says, the most telling symptom of fascist politics is division. It aims to separate a population into an us and a them. When I read this, it gave me much more understanding of what's going on right now. Listen to this. Fascist politicians justify their ideas by breaking down a common sense of history and creating a mythic past to support their vision for the present. They rewrite the population's shared understanding of reality by twisting the language of ideals through propaganda and promoting anti-intellectualism, attacking universities and educational systems that might challenge their ideas. Eventually, with these techniques, fascist politics creates a state of unreality where conspiracy theories and fake news replace reasoned debate. As a common understanding of reality crumbles, fascist politics makes room for dangerous and false beliefs to take root. First, fascist ideology seeks to naturalize group difference, thereby giving an appearance of natural scientific support for a hierarchy of human worth. When social rankings and divisions solidify, fear fills in for understanding between groups. Any progress for a minority group stokes feelings of victimhood among the dominant population. Law and order politics has mass appeal, casting us as lawful citizens and them, by contrast, as lawless criminals whose behavior poses an existential threat to the manhood of the nation. Sexual anxiety is also typical of fascist politics, as the patriarchal hierarchy is threatened by growing gender equity. Okay, don't say we're exaggerating when we say this is fascism. Like, it's pretty obvious where this is going at this point. It's not good, it's not pretty. Even if your vote is against this more than it is for the other team, it's worth it to vote against this, okay? Okay, so we don't want to go backwards. This has been the direction of progress over time. And it's gone in this direction not because rights were granted out of benevolence to people, but because different classes and groups organized and agitated and fought and defended their rights over time. There are always going to be people who want to concentrate power in their own hands, so there always needs to be this push for progress and more equality. So then what should we be agitating for? Let's get to the part of the spectrum where we're actually creating equality.